My guess is they go 0-4. Maybe they go 1-3. Haslam's going to come down on Sunday, October 5th. And he says, I want Shedeur to play against Minnesota. And the staff's going to say, we're in London. It's rough. Just give us one more week. We don't want Shedeur having to go overseas. It's a big ask. And so they stave off the owner for a week. Flacco loses that game. I believe Shedeur starts Sunday, October 12th.
I'll keep saying it. I believe Shedeur Sanders should play more games than any other quarterback on this roster this year, because he's the only guy that I look at and say they might have something here. Because I'm telling you right now,
in the world of the NFL, fathers give their sons advice. They offer wisdom, support, and guidance as they prepare to enter the league. But Deion Sanders isn't just any father, and his advice isn't just advice. It's a directive. He has publicly stated that there is a list of teams, a handful of franchises, that his son, star quarterback Shedeur Sanders, will absolutely not be playing for. He called it pulling an Eli, referencing the time Eli Manning refused to play for the San Diego Chargers and forced a trade on draft day. Deion is drawing a line in the sand before a single snap is played, aiming to protect his son from dysfunctional organizations. It's a power move rarely seen, a father using his immense platform to try and control his son's destiny. But this raises a fascinating and potentially explosive question. What happens when one of the teams on that list is run by an owner who is famous for not taking no for an answer? An owner who has a history of falling in love with superstars and getting his way, no matter the cost or the consequences. To truly grasp the gravity of this situation, you have to understand the player at the center of it all. Shedeur Sanders is not just riding his father's coattails, he is, by every metric, a legitimate, high-level NFL quarterback prospect. He possesses a rare combination of poise, accuracy, and an innate feel for the pocket. He can make every throw on the field, but his real superpower is his unflappable confidence. He plays with a swagger, a belief in himself that coaches call the it factor. He's been groomed for the spotlight since birth, and unlike many players who shrink under pressure, Shedeur seems to thrive in it. He's not just a quarterback, he's a brand. He's a walking headline, a marketing dream, and a potential franchise-altering talent. And in the 2025 NFL Draft, he is expected to be one of the very first names called. He has the talent to change a team's fortunes, but his arrival could bring a level of drama and attention that few franchises are prepared for. And that brings us to the one city, the one team, that represents the perfect storm for this entire saga: the Cleveland Browns. For decades, the Browns have been the NFL's tragic heroes, a franchise defined by heartbreak, near misses, and a revolving door of quarterbacks. The city is starved for a true, undeniable superstar to build around, a savior to finally lead them to the promised land. They've tried everything. They've drafted the hometown hero, the Heisman winner, the safe bet, and the controversial blockbuster trade. But through it all, one constant has remained: the presence of their owner, Jimmy Haslam. And it's Haslam's history that makes the idea of Shedeur in Cleveland so unbelievably compelling. Jimmy Haslam isn't a passive owner who watches from a luxury box. He is deeply, personally, and famously involved in the team's biggest decisions, especially at the quarterback position. This isn't speculation. It's a well-documented pattern. Insiders and reports have long painted a picture of Haslam falling hard for specific players and pushing his front office to acquire them, sometimes against their better judgment. It was Haslam who was reportedly infatuated with Johnny Manziel, the flashy, headline-grabbing Heisman winner whose NFL career quickly fizzled out. It was Haslam who was a driving force behind drafting Baker Mayfield first overall, another charismatic leader who brought excitement but ultimately didn't last. And most significantly, it was Haslam who signed off on the earth-shattering trade for Deshaun Watson, committing an unprecedented amount of guaranteed money to a player with immense baggage. The pattern is crystal clear. Jimmy Haslam loves superstars. He loves the buzz, the headlines, and the splashy move. Now, look at Shedeur Sanders through that lens. He isn't just a talented quarterback, he is the ultimate headline. He comes with the Coach Prime media empire, a built-in national following, and a level of star power that transcends football. He's exactly the kind of player that would capture Jimmy Haslam's imagination. You can almost picture the owner watching Shedeur's highlights, seeing the primetime charisma, and deciding, that's my guy, that's the face of my franchise. He represents everything Haslam is drawn to: incredible talent, marketability, and the promise of making the Cleveland Browns the center of the football universe. The potential for Haslam to become obsessed with the idea of drafting Shedeur isn't just possible. Based on his history, it feels almost inevitable. But there's one massive, multi-million-dollar problem standing in the way. That problem's name is Deshaun Watson. When the Browns traded for Watson, they didn't just give up a historic haul of draft picks. They gave him a contract unlike any other in NFL history. 5 years, $230 million, every single penny of it fully guaranteed. This wasn't just a deal. It was a financial marriage with no possibility of a cheap divorce. That contract makes Watson essentially immovable. It's an anchor on their salary cap, a commitment so absolute that it dictates almost every other financial decision the team makes. Even if they wanted to move on, the financial penalty would be catastrophic. To put it in perspective, let's talk about the numbers. Heading into the 2025 season, if the Browns were to cut or trade Deshaun Watson, they would be hit with a dead cap charge of over $63 million. That means $63 million of their salary cap would be completely wiped out by a player who isn't even on their roster. That's enough money to sign 2 or 3 elite all-pro level players. It's a financial prison of their own making. This contract was supposed to solve their quarterback problem for a decade. Instead, it has created a situation where they are tied to a player who has struggled with injuries and inconsistent play, with absolutely no easy way out. This is the complex reality that the Browns front office has to navigate every single day. Caught in the middle of this are general manager Andrew Berry and head coach Kevin Stefanski. By all accounts, these are sharp, respected football minds. They won Coach of the Year and Executive of the Year awards. They are trying to build a sustainable winner through smart drafting, calculated risks, and creating a stable culture. They are the professionals in the room, the ones who have to manage the salary cap, build a 53-man roster, and deal with the day-to-day realities of the NFL. One can only imagine the challenge of trying to execute a long-term plan while also having to accommodate the impulses of a very hands-on owner. They are the architects trying to build a skyscraper on ground that occasionally shakes. So let's paint the picture. It's April 2025, the NFL Draft. The Cleveland Browns are on the clock with a first-round pick. Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski have their draft board set. They've done months of scouting. They need an offensive tackle or a game-changing defensive end. And then, the name still sitting there on the board is Shedeur Sanders. In the Browns draft room, you can imagine the tension. The football guys, Berry and Stefanski, are likely thinking about the roster, the locker room, and the financial nightmare of adding a high-profile rookie QB to the mix with Watson. But somewhere in that room, Jimmy Haslam sees his chance. He sees the star, the headlines, the jersey sales, the Showtime swagger that he believes can energize his franchise. This is where the hypothetical civil war begins. In one corner, you have the football purists arguing for a sensible pick that fills a need, a pick that doesn't invite a Category 5 hurricane of media drama into their building. They would plead their case, pointing to Watson's contract and the importance of stability. In the other corner, you have the owner, the man who signs the checks, the man whose track record proves that when he falls in love with a quarterback, he gets his quarterback. He would argue that you can't pass on a talent like Shedeur, that true franchise players are worth any amount of temporary chaos. It's a classic battle between pragmatism and passion, between the GM's long-term blueprint and the owner's desire for a blockbuster hit. And if history is any guide, the owner often wins. The decision to draft a player like Shedeur would be the ultimate power move, a declaration from Haslam that this is his team and he will shape it in his image. The fallout would be immediate and immense. The second the pick was announced, Cleveland would become the epicenter of the sports world. Every talk show, every podcast, every sports network would be laser-focused on one story: the impending quarterback controversy between the $230 million man, Deshaun Watson, and the charismatic, highly touted rookie, Shedeur Sanders. The pressure on the coaching staff would be unbearable. How do you manage a locker room with 2 quarterbacks who both expect to be the starter? The situation would be completely untenable. Then, you have to add the coach prime factor. Deion Sanders would not be a quiet, stay-in-the-background draft day dad. He would be an active, vocal, and powerful advocate for his son. Imagine the weekly press conferences. If Shedeur wasn't starting, you can be sure Deion would have something to say about it on one of his many media platforms. He would become a constant, looming presence over the organization, a force that the buttoned-up corporate world of the NFL is simply not used to dealing with. The combination of a meddling owner inside the building and a superstar father outside of it would create a level of chaos that could either forge a champion or tear the entire organization apart. But let's not forget the man at the center of this storm, Shedeur Sanders himself. It would be a mistake to view him as just a pawn in a game between his father and a team owner. Shedeur has repeatedly shown that he is his own man. He is supremely confident, a natural leader who has been groomed his entire life for moments like this. He wouldn't be intimidated by the situation, he would likely embrace it. He has the kind of personality that would relish the challenge of walking into a complicated situation and proving he's the best man for the job. He wouldn't shy away from the competition with Watson. He'd believe, from day one, that he could win it. His mindset is to compete and dominate, regardless of the circumstances. Of course, Cleveland isn't the only team that might be on Deion's no-fly list. He has publicly criticized the way the Atlanta Falcons, his former team, handled their business and hinted they'd be another team he'd steer his sons away from. This isn't a one-off comment. It's a strategic plan to steer Shedeur towards a stable situation where he can succeed. Deion has seen firsthand how bad organizations can ruin promising careers, and he is determined not to let that happen to his son. There are certainly more logical, less dramatic landing spots for Shedeur. Teams like the Las Vegas Raiders, the Tennessee Titans, or the New York Giants could all be in the market for a new franchise quarterback in 2025. These teams offer a clearer path to a starting job without the complication of a massive, guaranteed contract already on the books. A team like the Raiders, with their history of embracing swagger and personality, could be a perfect fit. These are the safe choices, the places where Shedeur could develop without a media circus erupting on day one. But the NFL is rarely logical, and the most compelling stories are born from conflict. And that's what this all boils down to. A potential showdown between an unstoppable force and an immovable object. On one side, you have Deion Sanders, the immovable object, using his influence to build a protective wall around his son's career. On the other, you have Jimmy Haslam, the unstoppable force, an owner with a history of using his immense wealth and power to get the exact player he wants, regardless of the consequences. The story of Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns is the ultimate what-if. It's a clash of philosophies, personalities, and power that feels like it was written for a Hollywood script. It's the kind of high-stakes drama that makes the NFL draft so captivating. Will Deion's list be the deciding factor in where his son lands? Or is the combination of Jimmy Haslam's checkbook and Shedeur's undeniable talent the one force that even Coach Prime can't control? What do you think? Could you see this happening? Would the Browns actually pull the trigger and draft Shedeur, setting up the biggest quarterback drama the league has ever seen? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think will happen next for Shedeur Sanders. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest stories in sports.